I didn't think I failed. That's the end. I've having never contemplated failing. I've never known what was going to happen.
3, 2, 1, go!
The moment an undergraduate at Cambridge opens a book, there are myriad siren voices urging him to close it again. Fun and frolics jostle with reading and research, and for the student who gets the balance wrong, there's a price to pay.
Just remembering the first 2 weeks of our first term, they were just the most incredible 2 weeks I think I've ever had. Oh, I don't know, it wasn't, I don't think it's just the alcohol, it's just amazing being in this new place, finding lots of new people, and the incredible number of parties going on. And it just seemed brilliant, and that's what I was looking forward to about next term.
Lawrence Pittaway has come from Hampton School to Queen's to study engineering. He's an exhibitioner, which ranks him among the intellectual elite.
I wasn't terribly looking forward to coming here. I just thought the name, Cambridge, I mean, it's got a ring about it, a Cambridge degree. I just had this feeling that it would be more respected than other degrees. I mean, everyone's heard of Oxford and Cambridge.
It's Rag Week. The students are jumping like lemmings into the Cam to raise money, and when he's finished jumping, Lawrence Pittaway continues with his higher education.
I think the school sort of psychs you up. You think you're right, you're good enough to go to Cambridge, that's something you really ought to work for. It's a great achievement. People who come here and get on all right, they're going to be set up for life, really. I mean, I don't know about the old boy network and things like that, but I'm sure that sort of thing does exist.
Engineers come from Cambridge's 24 colleges to the faculty building for lectures and practicals. In the first year, there are nearly 300 of them.
Which in retrospect they regret. Is there anything else that...
Lawrence Pittaway is one of 14 first-year engineers at Queen's. He's about to observe a structure tested to breaking point. It's the joint creation of Mark Doherty, the one without the goggles, and another Queen's engineer.
I remember in there, but we couldn't actually...
You've got quite a lot of steel up here.
That's right, yeah.
Keep the rain off.
Yes, I wondered about that this morning.
Yeah, that should cure that.
See how strong it is.
Stand back, everybody.
Ah, very nice.
I was wrong.
So that you were quite right to suggest that in the end there might be insufficient bracing up there.
Well, we were actually going to put a bracing member in there, but we didn't actually manage to get it in there.
But it would have been very hard to prevent that anyway. That's quite a nice global, I mean, it's gone in plenty of places at once, really, and it took a very large load, so that's fine.
Mark Doherty has started well, but very soon he too will buckle under the strain.
Take the strain! 3, 4! He's a
So Rag Week came and went, and as usual, charity benefited hugely from the unending satisfaction of seeing undergraduates disappear under the dappled surface of the River Cam.
3, 2, 1, go!
And fatally, Lawrence Pittaway also took to the river.
Well, rowing, I didn't feel it was putting a great deal in for the college. I mean, I was doing it for myself, really. When I first came here, I'd rowed before, and they're pretty desperate for people. And I gave it a go. When it came to the summer term, everyone said, oh, it's really great rowing in the summer term. And if you're in the first boat, you row in the evenings. You know, it's quite a good arrangement. And under this early morning stuff, which is just a killer.
There was one final fundraising event at Queen's, flanning. For £2, you can take out a contract on an enemy of your choice. Execution usually takes place at dinner, The sponsor is incognito, the flanners anonymous, the chosen victim unaware. It could be anyone in the hall, and everyone knows that it could be his name on the hit list.
What can the man do?
We've been done. I took which one is BBC.
But over the days that pass so sweetly hangs the shadow of exams. As June approaches, Queen's College Library, that was once its chapel, is dotted with prodigal sons and daughters paying penance for those lost hours of lotus eating.
So Andy, you feeling brilliant?
For the first-year engineers, there will be 7 papers spread over 4 days. Student performances are graded first, upper second, lower second and third. These are the honours grades and the passport into the second year. Then there's an ordinary and outright fail grade. A Queen's student in these grades will, subject to review, not be invited to remain in residence, which is a polite way of saying you're thrown out. Dr. Christopher Pounton teaches French and Spanish. He's also the tutor in charge of the welfare of engineering students. If a Queen's engineer fails his exams, it's Dr. Pounton who'll give him tea and sympathy and quite possibly the sack. But if there are extenuating circumstances, Dr. Pounton will listen. If the student can convince him that he ought not to be thrown out, Dr. Pounton will argue his case energetically at tomorrow's meeting of tutors, who will decide the fate of all Queen's examination casualties this year. The interviews that are about to take place will affect the future and career of 2 Queen's undergraduates. For 2 of the first-year engineers did fail to obtain an honours class. Both have been summoned back from their summer holiday. They're Lawrence Pittaway and Mark Doherty, who's sponsored at Queen's by Rolls-Royce.
Now, I think, although strictly it's confidential information, I think I ought to say that your performance in the exam was very poor, not to put too fine a point on it, and that within that ordinary class you were really right on the bottom of it. So it's not just a performance that narrowly misses being in the honours class, it's actually a performance which is some way down.
Well, to be honest, I was surprised by the mark. I did think I was going to get a third.
Did you?
Yes.
Yes.
So it did come as quite a shock.
So you didn't feel you'd done particularly well in the exams?
No, I knew I hadn't done very well, but I honestly didn't think I'd done that badly.
No.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could just look back on that, because this is, in a way, I suppose, one of the things that chiefly concerns me. It seems to me that I haven't a particularly strong case for you looking back over the year. Rod Smith, who's your Director of Studies, felt straight away that you were in danger of failure as a result of the Christmas test that was set. He wrote to you and said that you were in danger of failure because he perceived in your attitude to the piece a sort of shortfall in ability.
I mean, the thing, it was stupid, simple mistakes, and that was the problem, really. It was basically the marking on a graph, the actual scales, etc. It was just silly little things.
But I think that's what he was.
Yes,
concerned about,
exactly.
the fact
Yeah,
there was simple things that you haven't noticed. I honestly feel that you are really not up to the course here. I think that's what I infer from all this. Certainly in talking to Rod Smith, I think I agree with him that you are not. Should I say that I think he's very favourably disposed to you. He doesn't bear you any personal animosity. He likes you, and obviously all your supervisors like you. But he does feel that if you haven't crossed the hurdles in this first year, you're not going to in the second year. Now, I suppose what I want to try and assess is how much effort you've put into the course this year. Nobody's had any complaints about the work that you've put in, for instance. And there are two, well, there are lots of categories of students, but there are two in particular, those who fail because they don't work, in which case you might say, well, yes, if they give up rowing or give up acting, they could go on and by directing all their efforts to academic work will get through. As I see it, your case is rather different. It's not that you've slacked. You have put in the work, but you just haven't made the grade. And that, in a way, is a rather more serious case.
Myself and a friend next year hope to design, well, either a car or a motorcycle or something similar. And obviously to do that, we need the course. We just cannot do it without it. And it's things like that I'm going to have to try and sort of supplement the course with. I don't know if that sounds particularly convincing, I'm not sure.
It convinces me of your practical motivation.
Yes, I know,
This is speaking as a non-engineer. It convinces me that you want engineering for practical projects. It doesn't, to be honest, convince me that you're going to do any better next year. In some ways it convinces me the reverse, because I think to myself, oh, Mark is going to be spending all his time under a car.
I mean, do you agree that I have the ability to do the course? I mean, the fact that I was actually gained entrance.
Yep.
It must, surely.
Yes. I agree that we thought you had the ability. Your A-level results do suggest that, and indeed at interview you struck us as being highly motivated, and you struck us as being up to the course. There is a problem with supervision reports in engineering, I must admit. They aren't the most informative of documents, and it's a perennial complaint that supervisors don't really know their students all that well.
To be quite honest, I mean, why wasn't I told earlier, sort of, for example, in the middle of the Easter term, you know, that you sort of motivate yourself or do some more work or whatever?
Well, I think to that, I mean, Dr. Smith would say you were warned in January that you were likely to fail.
Yeah, but I did start doing a lot more work then.
Yes.
Yeah, and...
Well, to play devil's advocate, doesn't that answer the question? That if you've started doing more work and become more motivated or made yourself more motivated and still can't achieve, I put this brutally, what after all was a very minimal standard to get a third, it hasn't paid off. And the fact that you've done badly here doesn't mean to say that you would do badly elsewhere. Leaving Cambridge with a third-class degree is really not very commendable, whereas leaving, say, Brunel with a 2-1, I'm not suggesting Brunel's one that you got in mind, but I mean, that
just
isn't
initially I did have offers from Brunel.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
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 Just occurred to me as an engineering university.
Yes. Well,
might it not be better to have distinction there rather than disaster here?
Well, in all honesty, I suppose so. Yes. Yeah, but On the other hand, I do like Cambridge.
Well, I suppose I'm totally arrogant. I don't believe that anyone knows me as well as I do, and I know what I'm capable of. And I think I will be capable of doing well next year.
Right. So, how is it that you miscalculated things so badly?
I suppose I didn't really know the standard. I'm quite sure of that. I mean, seeing how everyone else has done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's generally low all over. And I think we're all optimistic. I mean, I thought Queen's, great college, there's all these award holders. We're going to be, you know, among the, well, sort of the top half, generally, of the results. So I assumed that, relative to other people here, I don't feel inadequate compared to people here. And if we're supposed to be, you know, the hardest college to get into,
Yes.
then how can I possibly end up right down there?
Yes. Yes. Rob's given you an idea of the marks you got, has he?
Yeah, like abysmal all round, apart from one paper.
Yeah. Well, they are.
Yeah, oh, you got them as well.
Yes.
Really bad.
Well,
Unprecedented,
apart
as
from
you say.
materials, it seems that your idea of the standards of the exam is a bit askew.
I thought, when you say, how come you've miscalculated so badly? It really was, because just before the exams, I was feeling quite confident. In all but two papers, I thought I was going to do very well. Well, judging by the amount of work I've actually done, which in all truth consisted of the first two terms, just sort of the odd weekend here and there, just to try and catch up a little bit. And other people have managed to catch up during holidays, and I've done absolutely nothing. And that holidays are quite a long time, and when you haven't got all the college activities going on, there's a lot of time at home. And I don't know if tutors understand this, and supervisors understand this, that for students it seems pretty obvious. I mean, people don't do a lot of work while they're here. And holidays are a good time to catch up.
Are you saying you didn't work in the
I've done absolutely nothing in any of the holidays.
Any work in the vacations?
No.
And only work at sort of weekends in term time?
Yeah, until this last term, when I got halfway through, I got down to it.
Yes.
Obviously not well enough.
Yes.
I was sort of looking at questions that I knew I should be able to do. And I felt it was just being overtired, you know, through the row. And I was just in those exam rooms, just in there, just feeling tired, and not wanting to be there. I do intend to row.
Yes.
Because it helps me. It helps me, you know, relax. And it wasn't until I actually started rowing that I actually got motivated to do any work.
I see.
In this extreme case, I felt it was interfering. But if I am kept on, then all I've got to do, I mean, you know, Dr. Smith is obviously thinks that I'm just totally inadequate and I can't do it. That I'm not good enough. He said I should be going to another university, if I was accepted, where the pace wasn't quite so hot. And perhaps I've got too high opinion of myself, and I think I can cope. I coped easily enough at school, and it's no more difficult here. There's just more of it. Put more effort into it, and just be on top of it as you meet each topic. I was looking at topics just before exams I'd never looked at before.
Well, I think there is a difference, though, in a way, between school and university, and particularly this university. That at school you've always done very well, probably because you're that much ahead of other people in the class.
Well, the reason I did well is because I enjoyed what I was doing, and I was never told do this. I just did it because I wanted to, and here I haven't wanted to.
Right. I think I ought to leave you under no illusion that it most probably is the end. But that being said, I will do the best I can for you. Our normal practice is to send people away so that they can make a success of a course somewhere else. But I think you ought to be thinking about what you might do? Instead, if it comes to that.
Going to try the university, that's what I'd do.
Mm.
No doubt about that. I'd got the impression, just speaking to someone yesterday,
Yes.
that no university is likely to take you on. It might be a polytechnic.
Well,
No
I
chance
think
there.
other universities are quite likely to take you on. Did you apply to other universities then?
Yeah, I just Manchester, Sussex.
Were they serious
Leeds.
applications or just to fill up the forms?
Manchester was. I mean, I got totally fed up with the Uxbridge term and given up.
Yeah.
Thought I don't really care. I want to go to Manchester. Pretty extreme. I like the sound of the Manchester course. I thought, right, enough of this. I mean, basically, what it came down to was the interview. I absolutely hated the interview. It struck me as so boring that. Well, I mean, that's how it is. That's how engineering is.
What do you mean the interview here?
Interview here was. I thought they're not going to ask any daft questions about engineering. That's what the exams are for. That's what the entrance paper's for. And the fact they did, I just didn't like it at all. I mean, I've since learned this that John Green's. I mean, John Green was sort of firing questions left, right, and it's his sort of way of seeing how you react.
Mm.
I mean, I was
like being asked about motorbikes.
Not really. I mean, I didn't enjoy the interview, and I thought, well, if that's what they're like, then why am I coming here? Well, maybe it's not Cambridge as a whole. Obviously, it was just this college. Have I made a mistake? Should I be going somewhere else? And looking at the Manchester prospectus, it looked so good. I thought, right, this is it.
We didn't make a very good impression on you.
Eh?
We didn't make a very good impression on you.
Well, just the interview. Everything else I've heard about Cambridge is fine. Not the interview.
Well, obviously, I mean, Manchester is a place that you could reconsider.
Behind the closed door sits the committee with background notes on the two students, reports, minuted warnings from their Director of Studies, Rod Smith, and the damning marks of the examiners. The futures of Mark Docherty and Lawrence Pittaway are in the balance.
It was an awful lot of fun.
It was left, right and centre, was it?
Yeah, basically.
Do you know what they've done? They discussed both of us all the way through. And
No, it's just me at the moment.
what was going to take? Another hour? Or
Yeah.
whatever?
Reckon so. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. You just have to see what this is. You might have pulled it together now. It doesn't know yet, does one? Someone does now. How looks too thick?
so what's he saying? Just wait around.
Well, I mean, they just sort of said, well, thank you, Mark. I mean, John Green was asking the majority of the questions.
Yeah.
Basically, sort of had sort of Rod Smith and I sort of talked about, I think, during the sort of the Lent term, etc. And I couldn't really remember. Yeah, but, I don't know. Just have to see.
I had a quick phone with my mum, and she's a bit upset, basically. That's the trouble. I mean, I feel pretty rotten. They've always trusted me in the past. They've always let me do what I wanted. I mean, they don't know anything about, education really. Other people at school, I remember, their parents saying, oh, you must do German, you must do this. I've never had any of that. I've always been able to do exactly what I wanted. And now I suppose I've really let them down. I mean, because I suppose at that sort of age you're a bit touchy about people praising you, and especially parents, you tend to get a bit embarrassed. So they've always played it down. But I think basically they're very pleased I'm here. And now, I don't know. Okay, they'll be upset. But I don't know if they've got any right to take it out on me, so to speak, because I'm the one that's actually going to suffer. They're not actually going to suffer because of this. I'm the one that's going to lose most. So, I don't know. I mean, they've always been very reasonable in the past. I think they'll understand this. I mean, and all the relations, you know, think how marvellous I am because I've got to Cambridge. I'm not, maybe not so marvellous now.
The committee of 8 tutors subject both students to a rigorous interview. But this is not merely a college matter. It costs the public £8,000 a year to educate an engineer at Cambridge.
Would you like to hang on here? It may take quite a time, I'm afraid. If you could hang on, that would be... No, more cases to discuss. Can you
Sorry.
hang on?
I think there's no need for them to wait. I mean, you can see them in their rooms later on.
Yeah, where are you?
Well,
I'm not. I'm just sort of living around the TV room.
there's sort of nowhere really.
There's no objection to staying.
There's no objection, no. I just thought, I mean,
I think you might as well stay.
there's also no particular need for them to wait.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
I mean, we may be quite a long time.
Well, that you know.
I haven't got really much hope. I mean, what they can't accept is that I haven't worked and that I'm prepared to.
Yeah, why the change, etc.
They can't see. When they're going back and saying, were you told to do some work, were you told to do trifles questions? I said, yes. Did you do them? No. And Rossman says, well, there you go then, you know. But it's not that at all. I didn't want to do it at that stage. I thought, no, didn't even want to be doing engineering. So I didn't see why I should, you know, sort of waste my time doing trifles questions. Now, I don't mind. I would be prepared to do it.
I think it would be best if you come and see me in my room at 6:30, actually.
Okay.
If I'm not there, can you just wait?
Yeah.
Sorry to...
Was it open, or should we wait?
No, we can just wait.
Okay.
Or hover around.
The committee will now discuss the matter until a consensus is reached.
I don't know if you've read any newspaper articles running down the sort of Cambridge myth, where, because it's generally accepted amongst students that the courses are bad. You don't realise that until you come here. And when you do discover it, unless you haven't been particularly academically motivated, you don't really worry, because it's such a great place. I hope they haven't been the best times of my life, because I'm certainly hoping for better. And I'm going to think of it as somewhere, right, the parents, they've never been to university. I'm the first one. Okay, I wasn't quite good enough. Well, I'll make sure that the next generation are going to do a bit better and actually manage to last a course here. Something to aim for there. It'll be a nice place to come back and visit people, you know, if I'm not here myself. I'd rather be here than anywhere else. And at the end of the day, it'd still be to my advantage to have a Cambridge degree as opposed to a degree from somewhere else. You know, the sort of careers I'll be looking at, I'm sure they're just the sort of careers where, you know, that sort of Cambridge myth is still very important.
Well, I'm afraid that you haven't been invited to remain in residence, despite all our best efforts. I can't tell you the reasons why, because the reasons why are confidential.
Yeah.
And that's as it should be, because, of course, you might decide to appeal to the governing body. I'm not entirely convinced that there'll be any point in that. I think the governing body would probably simply support what the tutors have done, but John Green will be writing to you and telling you exactly what the mechanism is, and then you can come to a decision as to whether you do want to appeal or not. I think you've got to think about it.
Well, I don't know, I haven't got a clue. I mean, you advised me not to, so obviously they're pretty convinced, the tutor's pretty convinced that they shouldn't keep me, if that's their opinion.
I'm afraid it was, yes. I'd warned you that it might turn out like this, and indeed, as I said yesterday, the problem is that were it not to turn out like that, there had to be a positive decision to keep you. It's, if you like to think of it this way, it's not that they're kicking you out. Well, I know they are effectively.
I've already kicked myself.
It's not that they're kicking you out, it's that they're not asking you to come back. That's technically how it works.
I can say I went in there and there's no reason why they should have sympathy with me. They obviously don't believe what I believe. If that's their view. I mean, I know they're wrong, but that's not the point.
Right.
So I'll go and get a first somewhere else, I think.
Right. I think what you need to do, well, as in any disaster in life, you need to look at it positively. It obviously seems difficult at the moment. It depends how much you want a degree, doesn't it? It may.
Well, it seems pretty ridiculous not to even get a degree, having got what I've got before coming here.
That's right.
I mean, I never considered not. If I hadn't got into this place, I didn't consider. Right, well, sort of good A-level results are enough. There's got to be more than that. You can't get anywhere without a degree.
Yeah. But what you've got to do to get on a degree course is keep plugging away. Your school will give you a reference. We will give you a reference. And there's a whole lot of negotiation to be done. There's negotiation with your local authority as well about whether they will support you. I guess they will if you get a place.
Well, they're not going to be very pleased, are they? If say, well, this is all being terribly optimistic in my view. If I was to accept another 3-year course, they're not going to be very happy about paying up another 3 years when they don't.
No, they're not. But you've got to find out. You've got to find out what the possibilities are. Mark, do sit down.
Okay.
You will be pleased to know that the tutors have invited you to continue in residence. I can't go into the reasons for that. Those reasons are confidential. But basically, you are going to be allowed to come back. However, that's the good news.
Yes.
Well, the bad news isn't bad news. It depends how you look at it. There is a very strong recommendation that you should seriously consider finding a course elsewhere. Basically, because there was I think some people were convinced that you would be happier on another course. I think in particular Dr. Smith was convinced of that. And while he's prepared to take you back,
I realise
he and therefore the others really feel that in some senses it would be better for you to go somewhere else. But that is a decision you've got to make.
Well, to be quite, at least I've got the option of making it.
Right,
now.
you have. You have that option. You have that right to look around other places and really see if there's anything that you feel you would be happier in. That's
well, I
how
think
it is.
that I'll really have to discuss it with Rolls-Royce. Yeah, I mean,
well, that's the other thing, that we would recommend that you did discuss it with them. They're obviously not going to be too pleased about your performance this year.
No, indeed.
They're obviously going to have views about what sort of course you should do as a potential future employee. So I think you ought to discuss it with the trainee.
Well, indeed, I've got to see what they say, really. Thank you very much.
Righty-ho. What are you hanging around? Or are you,
well, no, I might as well go home now.
You might as well, really. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Chat things over with Rolls-Royce.
Yes, I have to see what they say. Yeah.
Okay, Mark.
Right.
Bye-bye then. Oh.
Mark Doherty did come back, but not for long. After 3 weeks, he left Queen's for good, still depressed by his failure.
Well, I've decided to appeal against the decision. because there might be some chance. And if there is a chance, then I've got to take it. Probably look back at it and think of it as the most important thing that's happened to me yet. I think my whole future is going to depend on whether I'm here or not, and I'd much rather I was here. So I've just got to fight all the way.
At the appeal, the governing body decided by a casting vote to set Lawrence Pittaway a test. He passed and returned to Cambridge. He will, after all, be taking his finals next year.
Mark Doherty went almost immediately to Sheffield University to read mechanical engineering. He's flourishing and passed his first-year exams with top grades. Next week, we turn our attention away from the students to those whose service to the college ensures its smooth running.